We told you all year we were going to do this video. This is why Ole Miss will beat the Alabama Crimson Tide. Right here on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, we warned everybody about this video. We're going to do it. This is why Ole Miss will beat Alabama Crimson Tide. I'm Stephen Willis, host of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Thanks for joining us. And also, we want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up at UnderdogFantasy.com with promo code Locked On and get your first deposit doubled up to $100. So that sounds pretty cool indeed. Also, thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. Do us a favor, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell for notifications, and of course, participate by commenting down below and upvoting the video itself. We'd appreciate it very much. Anyway, for newcomers, I do this video every game week. This is the Why Ole Miss Will Win game. This is not a prediction, even though if you look at my prediction yesterday, I did predict Ole Miss to win the game, along with Luke Robinson from Locked On Bama, by the way. But this is why I do think Ole Miss will win the game. And I think that's an important distinction to make, if that makes sense at all. Why will Ole Miss win the game? Well, the main reason Ole Miss will win this game is Zach Evans and Quinshon Judkins. Ole Miss has not lost a game this year where both of those were available. I mean, that's a factual statement. We've done a video this week about Mr. Inside and Mr. Outside and talked about Zach Evans and Quinshon and the things they can provide. And they have the ability to stretch out an accordion, this Alabama defense, sideline to sideline, while the receivers stretch it out vertically, giving a lot of space in the field for players like Jaxson Dart to run the football. I think Jaxson Dart running the ball will be an absolute weapon Saturday. But all of this is going to be available, and all of this is going to be a thing because of Zach Evans and Quinshon Judkins, two of the potential best running backs in the country, probably the two best running backs in the Southeastern Conference, even over Jahmyr Gibbs, even over Chris Rodriguez, the guys at Georgia. There's some good backs in the conference, but I'll take these two over anybody. Absolute monsters playing running back. Now, another reason that I think Ole Miss will win this game this weekend is what I call Lane Kiffin surprises. So when we go out there in the script, pay attention to the script because there's something that is going to be drawn up either to set up a play later in the game or actually take advantage of something they've seen in the film. So whether it's a double move on the outside, I expect a deep shot to be taken. Whether or not it was a running back or the way they set up the play, it's designed to attack an area of the defense that in the course of normal football, it might be hidden. But they found this weakness, and they found two or three plays to attack that weakness. And until Alabama stops us attacking that weakness, they're going to do it over and over and over again. And whenever they do that, there's going to be a play built off of it and a play built off of it. Lane Kiffin is an offensive genius for a reason, period. But that is something you can pay attention to. Also, thanks everybody for watching this video. I'm recording this a little bit early because of Tropical Storm Nicole. Hurricane Ian came through, shut me down for a couple of days before the Kentucky game. Happened on a Thursday. This is going to happen on a Thursday. Hurricane Nicole is going to come basically right over my house. So maybe this will happen and be the same thing. I don't think it'll be quite as bad as Ian, but we'll see. Anyway, thank you very much for that. So the two things we're talking about right now is Zach Evans and Quinshon Judkins. Lane Kiffin surprises. Those are the two major things to keep an eye on. And they're probably going to be the reasons Ole Miss win the game, save for the next one or two that I'm going to tell you. And I'm going to tell you that in the second half. But, man, Zach Evans is Mr. Outside, and that's what I'm going to call him. They're going to be Mr. Inside, Mr. Outside to me for the duration, essentially. Absolutely phenomenal players. Zach Evans on the outside is a weapon. The other team knows he's a weapon. If you saw what he did at 75% against Texas A&M, you would say he was a weapon too. He had like 8 carries for 75 yards. And you know the kid from Houston wanted to show out against Texas A&M. I mean, that is his local school. But against Alabama, this is the game all of these players signed up for. When they transferred to the SIP, this is the game that all of them are looking towards. You're going to get their best effort. If you have a situation, I think, where, you play good for the first half, you're bad for the second half, or bad for the first half and good for the second half and can't quite put it all together, this may be the first game where that actually happens. These are going to be players that are extremely locked in, because I've told people all the time, Bama's roster is the most talented Ole Miss will face. Period. They lost to LSU. They beat A&M. Those are the 2 other supremely talented rosters they have faced. And we'll see how this happens, what goes down. With Arkansas and LSU kicking off at 11 o'clock and Ole Miss kicking off at 2:30, you'll know by kickoff if the Ole Miss-Alabama game is everything you thought it would be last Wednesday before the Alabama-LSU game. But you have to be careful and guard against inflation and deflation depending on the result of the game. You need to kind of be even-keeled and attack this thing. Basically go at it like LSU won the game, and you have to keep going and keep this thing alive until the game at Texas A&M. Because I'm going to tell you guys a secret. Texas A&M, decent team, okay? Not great, decent. The record is not good, but they have pieces to where they can rise up and get you. That's what I mean by that. If Ole Miss wins out, beats Alabama, beats Arkansas, beats Mississippi State on Thanksgiving, that game on Saturday between LSU and Texas A&M, can you imagine how much pressure will be on LSU for that game? Can you imagine exactly what that would be like? Can you imagine what the LSU players will be going through? Can you imagine the amount of pressure that is going to be on that game? Because Ole Miss is done. LSU just has one game left. So that is an interesting thing. I've got off on a little bit of a rant here, but Zach Evans, Quinshon Judkins, and Lane Kiffin surprises. Now, what do I mean by Lane Kiffin surprises? Lane Kiffin surprises would be 20 personnel, 21 personnel. That'd be 2 running backs and a tight end, or 2 running backs and no tight end, depending on how you want to line up. Do you want to take a slot receiver off the page, or do you want to take a tight end off the field? The second running back is going to be doing what the other one does anyway. So Quinshon Judkins and Zach Evans are probably the 2 best players that Ole Miss has at the moment. There's rumors that Michael Trigg might suit up against Alabama. I do not know. The staff and injuries, there's no reason to even ask them. We'll see how it goes. But I think there's going to be a few surprises that we'll see. I expect Ole Miss to be in powder white on Saturday. Like I said, I'm recording this on Wednesday because of Tropical Storm Hurricane Nicole. And we'll see exactly what it looks like. It should be really good. This episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to spice up college football this season. It's crazy easy. You go to the Underdog website, create an account, and look at the different pick'em choices for the Ole Miss Rebels each week. I would say Jaxson Dart might be under of what he's predicted because he might have a high number. But I think Quinshon Judkins could jump up higher than is what's predicted. He's going to be the Mr. Inside to Zach Evans' Mr. Outside, and those together could form a nasty little weapon. So go to the Underdog and make your own picks just like I did. And, it's easy to play and it's available in over 30 states. Just pick between 2 and 5 players across any team, not just Ole Miss, and decide if they'll finish higher or lower. It's one of the easiest fantasy games to play out there, and you can win cold hard cash in a single game. Sign up with promo code LOCKEDON. That's one word, Locked On. And Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's right. Deposit $100, get $100 free. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com, or as the way I prefer it, the Underdog Fantasy app in the App Store and the Google Play Store. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Locked On. Get in on the college football pick'em action today. All right. Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. So do us a favor, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell for notifications, comment down below, and upvote. Also, for your second listen today, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. It's Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. So in the first segment, we talked about Zach Evans, Quinshon Judkins, and Lane Kiffin surprises. The third segment is, I think, Jaxson Dart. I think Ole Miss is going to win this game because of Jaxson Dart. If Jaxson Dart plays well, Ole Miss wins the game. If Jaxson Dart plays okay, Ole Miss doesn't win the game. This game will be on Jaxson Dart's shoulders, and this will be the reason. This game is the reason he was recruited to begin with. If it wasn't for him being recruited for this game, the quarterback right now would be Luke Altmaier. Period. But Jaxson Dart provides a little bit extra that Luke Altmaier could not provide. Jaxson Dart, I don't even worry about him being turnover prone or whatever. His grasp of the offense is exactly where it needs to be and has gotten better and better and better each week. Just amazing. His numbers might not show it, but his operation running the offense absolutely shows it. He's gotten better and better. And against Texas A&M, he was really good. And Jaxson Dart has 9 touchdown passes in the last 4 games. You don't even think about that. He has a chance to throw for 2,700 yards this season and so many touchdowns. And you don't even realize that all that's going on because of the operation and the machine-like nature of this offense moving forward. And it's on him. He gets credit for that. Lane Kiffin gets credit for that, but he gets credit for that too. And I think it's important to realize exactly what he brings to the table. So I think Ole Miss could take a step and win the game because of a performance from Jaxson Dart. And finally, this is the last reason that I am going to give why Ole Miss will win the game. The defense will play well. Okay, I'll wait. Just let me know when you're done. Okay. The defense will play well. Now, I don't mean the defense will play like last year's Georgia team. This team will not be that. I've put out information on Twitter. I've done everything that I can do to people to tell what this defense is. And they choose, I guess, not to listen to it because they want last year's Georgia. They don't understand why we do the things that we do. The one way to attack this defense is murder ball. Joyless murder ball. Alabama can't really play that. They don't have that guy. They don't have the Brian Robinson, the Derek Henrys, the Mark Ingrams, the guys that Alabama has been known for. They don't have that guy. Jahmyr Gibbs, fantastic running back. Count the number of times against LSU he ran between the tackles. Every time they needed to run the ball between the tackles, they brought in Roydell Williams. Now, I'm not saying that Alabama is bad at doing anything. I am saying that Ole Miss's defense matches up better against Alabama than you would think. Last year was a horrible matchup. Brian Robinson, and just absolutely, that was like a retro back to the joyless murder ball of, Jim McElwain. This was different. Outside and in space, Jahmyr Gibbs is absolutely a fantastic player. He is their leading receiver. He is an athlete. He is Alvin Kamara basically running option routes out there. There's stuff that they do that is NFL level with Jahmyr Gibbs. His forte is not running the ball downhill between the tackles. They're going to bring in Jace McClellan or give the ball to Rodale Williams every single time. So it becomes imperative that Ole Miss tackles well. If you do not tackle well, just like I said yesterday, the fourth quarter at Arkansas is possible because all these 5-stars everywhere, they can rise up and get you. You have to be sure. You have to be focused. You have to be on it, and you have to want to do it. If you do that and you tackle well, all of a sudden this defense is going to do enough. This offense from Alabama is not disciplined. If you can force false starts and put them in long yardage, you have a chance to be successful and start stringing together possessions to where they don't go down and score. That gives a little bit of momentum for your offense and gives them the ability to do what they need to do. The stuff that I talked about, Zach Evans and Quinshon Judkins and the Lane Kiffin surprises and Jaxson Dart, all of that becomes more possible because of what the defense does. Now, I don't think the defense is going to keep Bama below like 24, but it'll be important for them to play well. It needs to be hard for Alabama. That's the important thing. If you cut on the game and you're like, okay, which team is it more hard to move the ball against the other? LSU and Alabama, that was obviously Alabama. Alabama had a much more hard time moving the ball. Which team between Alabama and Ole Miss is having the more difficult time moving the football? That will be a major key to go, and that will be an indicator of whether or not it's working or not. You know, people like Tavius Robinson, J.J. Pegues, Cedric Johnson, Jared Ivey, those cats on the defensive line going up against the Alabama offensive line. I do think that they had a chance over the bye week to put in something defensively, especially for this Alabama team. And maybe for the next 2 weeks. I don't know. Should be a really good game. This is a game that I'm really looking forward to. I've told you this all week. I'm looking forward to this game. And it's not because that I think Ole Miss can win this game. I think this matchup is intriguing. Which Alabama will we get? Now, on the road, they haven't been very good, but up in Arkansas, they went up 28-0 and looked like $1 million. Arkansas is like 68th in the Power 5 in explosive plays. Ole Miss is like 12th. So those explosives are a big deal. If we can make Alabama work it, make Alabama drive the field, especially in a situation where they want to throw the ball. Bryce Young threw the ball, I think, last year for 180 yards or something like that. They didn't have to because of Brian Robinson, but that's all they threw it for. So all of this will be interesting. And I think it'll be important for everybody to see what's going on anyway, because it's going to be a fantastic game. But that is why I think Ole Miss will win the football game. In the next segment, we'll have Derek Vandygriff that comes on. He's going to do a weekly segment for me. Like I said, I'm recording this early because of the hurricane. So if it's past due, anything's past due, I apologize for it. If you thought about securing your home with home security but have been putting it off, you'll want to listen up. Right now, Locked On Ole Miss listeners can order the #1 rated Simply Safe home security system for 50% off. This is their biggest offer of the year, and you won't want to miss it. Here's why I love it. Now, in 2019, I had major brain surgery. I mean, I tell you that every time I read this ad. And because of it, I guess it was the amount of time that my brain touched the oxygen in the room. I don't know what reason, but after it, I became more forgetful. And I forget that I set the security system once or twice a week. You know, I mean, it's crazy. Alarm goes off, get a call, give them the password, and they're like, yes, okay, Mr. Willis. And they cut it off, and it was like, if they do this for the worst customer in the history of customers, what would they do for you? I mean, Simply Safe was named the best home security system of 2022 or something like that by U.S. News and World Report, like a third year in a row. I mean, this is a solid group. But this is what's important. They will do that. In an emergency, 24/7 professional monitoring agents use Fast Protect technology, exclusive from Simply Safe, to capture critical evidence and verify the threat is real so you can get priority police response. They know what's going on. They have it going. So don't miss your chance to save big on the only security system I recommend, period. Get 50% off any new Simply Safe system at simplysafe.com/lockedoncollege. This is their biggest discount of the year, so do not wait. That's simplysafe.com/lockedoncollege. There's no safe like Simply Safe. All right, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. So do us a favor, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell for notifications, and participate with the comment section down below, as well as upvoting the video. We'd appreciate it very much. I am joined by Derek Vandygriff. We're going to talk about Ole Miss and Alabama. We have a hurricane. We're just full disclosure, recording this on Wednesday, because a hurricane is supposed to hit us at 7 in the morning tomorrow. So I don't want you guys to go without on Friday in case I'm out of power. So, Derek, what do you think the headlines are for Ole Miss in Saturday's game?
Well, as far as the Ole Miss-Alabama game goes, I mean, it's got to be us establishing the run. You know, we got to stick to our identity, and we've got to impose our will. That offensive line's got to do some work, and you got to have a lot of Quinshon, Judkins, and Zach Evans, you know, kind of like you said earlier in the week on the podcast. You know, that's the key to this game here, because it's a completely different offense when both of those backs get touches, because they're so different, but they're so incredibly talented in the ways that they do run the ball. You know, it's two completely different ways that you have to guard the inside and the outside. Quinshon's so good at finding gaps and making that one cut and going straight up the middle, you know, there between the tackles. And then Zach Evans, you know, if you ever get him outside the tackles in space, whether it be on a jet sweep, toss, anything like that, or just a swing pass, something, you know, if you get him into open field, and you better watch out, because he's a special player that can do big things with the ball in his hands out there. So that's one thing I'm looking for. You know, those two guys, Evans should be a lot healthier, I would think, this week after you know, not playing the LSU game, minimum snaps in the A&M game, and then the bye week here. So that knee should be pretty good, I would think. So that's one thing I'm looking for. And then Jaxson Dart being able to attack downfield. That's kind of been the MO against Alabama the last few years, you know, and we're the kind of offense that is set up to do that if we're able to establish that run game, because that's what they're going to focus on is getting up to the line, crowding the box, trying to keep our run game in check. And that's when Jaxson Dart needs to go over the middle, downfield, and find these receivers to make some big plays for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you hit almost my keys perfectly to the game.
Yeah.
Defensively, I'd also add that I think the defense needs to be really good at tackling this week. It can't be a poor tackling day.
Yeah. The one play that really bothers me with Alabama coming up is it's not your traditional Alabama team as far as running the ball, where they just line up and just ram it down your throats, right? That's not what Jahmyr Gibbs does. But they are so good at that angle route with the running back coming out of the backfield and getting back up the middle of the field. That's something we're really going to have to watch, because he's one of those guys like Zach Evans. If you get him with open space in the middle of the field, I mean, he can absolutely kill you. So that's one thing, probably pass protection with the linebackers or the robber star, whatever you want to call that floating safety that comes up and plays the run every now and again, and then the safeties in the backfield too. You know, that's something we're going to have to watch for is defend the middle of the field, because it's not going to be your traditional ground and pound Alabama offense that you see. And you know, we're kind of catching Alabama at a pretty good time right now, because Bryce Young doesn't look like Bryce Young right now. You know, he's still an incredible talent, obviously. You know, we kind of talked about this on Tuesday on our Twitter space. When you hear us talk about these kind of things, it's not a cockiness or that Ole Miss is going to win, but it's just observations. When you see Bryce Young from last year to this year, you can see that shoulder's bothering a little bit, accuracy's off a little bit, the deep ball's not as good as it used to be. But he's still really good, and he's an elite talent that can step up and beat you. So that's something that you've got to plan for and you got to guard against.
Yeah, you think Bryce Young's really healthy?
No, there's no way he's healthy. I mean, again, just from his freshman year last year to this year, since that shoulder injury that he had, I mean, you see the accuracy is the big thing, especially on the deep balls. But even those intermediate 10 to 15 yard plays over the middle, or the fade and stops right there at the sidelines, they're not quite as on point as they usually are right now. So you can tell it's bothering him a little bit. He's going to play, and he's still better than what 95% of America is going to run out there at quarterback, because he's that good of a talent. But if there was something that you could look for with Bryce Young is that throwing shoulder isn't 100%, and if things go a little bit sideways Saturday for him, then it wouldn't be completely out of the realm for Bryce Young to say, hey, I've got a $10 million payday ahead of me here in so many months. Let's go ahead and get this thing fixed and shut this thing down. And that might be something that's in the back of his mind. It's not something you expect with the Saban-led team, but this isn't really a position they've been in a whole lot, having 2 losses with 4 games to go, and they're already out of the SEC and national championship race. So that the mindset of those Alabama players is something I'm going to be watching earlier. How aggressive are they? How locked in are they? 'Cause it's just something that we haven't seen in probably a decade and a half at this point.
Yeah, and one thing that everybody needs to pay attention to is the kickoff of the Ole Miss and the Alabama game is right after the LSU and Arkansas game.
Yeah.
If LSU wins that game, Alabama is mathematically eliminated.
Yeah.
If Arkansas wins that game, Ole Miss is playing for first place. So
that's when you throw the score on the Jumbotron and you announce it as loud as you can through the PA system during warm-ups, and you let everybody know that this is what this game is about, and you let those fans blow the absolute roof off of that place, because it is going to be nuts.
Yeah, uniform-wise, what would you wear? By the time this airs, it'll already be out, but what would you wear?
Well, obviously they're going to wear something that we haven't done already this year. I would think that it would be something powder related. Now I'm not sure what all combinations we have done this year. I haven't dug that deep into that, but honestly, I would love to see us go back to the Eli Manning days there, in Vaught Hemingway Stadium. But I'm sure we've already won the Navy gray already, haven't we?
We have.
Oh, have we not?
No.
Okay, give me Navy gray.
Yeah, the OGs are still on the table too with the Navy red gray.
Oh man, yeah, that'd be good. But I was watching some of the clips of that Eli Manning game earlier when he hit toward Sanford down the sideline there, and then the swing pass to Joe Gunn to get us into the end zone to finally beat Alabama. That was actually the first time we beat Alabama in my lifetime. At that point, like I didn't even think it was possible at that point. And
you were born after '88.
Yeah. So if you give me some,
man, I'm old.
If you give me some Navy gray, I'm all in on that. Just from a nostalgia standpoint.
This is my feeling on the uniforms moving forward. I think they're going to do powder white against Alabama.
Okay.
But that leaves the OGs, the Navy red gray, for the Mississippi State game.
Mississippi State, yeah. Okay.
And if Ole Miss goes to Atlanta, it's Navy gray.
Well, you messed up there, Stephen. You said if we go to Atlanta, we're going to Atlanta. Okay, this is the full confidence podcast going on right now. We're going back in a time machine back to baseball season right now. Okay, I'm telling you what's going to happen. We're going to beat Alabama. We're running the table. Arkansas is going to beat LSU. We go to Atlanta, beat Georgia, and make it to the playoffs. So y'all don't even have to watch from here on out.
Yeah, not a joke or anything, but since this podcast has existed, we've gone to the Sugar Bowl, won a baseball national championship.
I know, right? I mean, it's kind of good karma right now.
Yeah.
That's kind of what's led to my uber confidence that I have going on ever since I've been on this podcast. Things just seem to be going well.
Yeah, I'm all about confidence. Whether it's justified or not, I'm all about it. And it's great. Let's do it. I'm ready. But, if Ole Miss beats Bama, and I honestly feel like LSU is going to get beat, and Ole Miss is going to beat Bama, and it's going to set up that game, another chance to exercise demons in Fayetteville.
Yeah, and then we talked about this a little bit Tuesday on our Twitter space. If y'all are on Twitter and all that, you get a lot of good content on Tuesday night from us on those Twitter spaces. You also join in there. But yeah, we kind of talked about it's kind of the year of exercising demons, right? When you go back to the baseball team, with not only getting to Omaha, but you have to get through Arkansas to get to the national championship. And you got to go through Hattiesburg to get to Omaha. And then you're down in Coral Gables, and you've got to beat two teams that put you out of super regionals, that kept you out of Omaha. And it was just one long stretch, one after another. Not to mention the midweight game in Hattiesburg that boosted that RPI before we ended up going on to Baton Rouge and sweeping that series there. It was just one after another after another after another. So yeah, it kind of feels like it's kind of our year to
set up that way. Yeah.
All of them. Yeah. So yeah, I'm all in on that theory.
Yeah, and we just have to wait until the conference season in basketball to see how they do. But football-wise, I think we should be all right.
Yeah.
1 point lead over Alcorn State. That makes me a little bit nervous.
We'll sit here and wait on the basketball team.
Yeah. So, other than those two games, what are you paying attention to this week?
Oh, man, I'm really interested in the A&M and Auburn game, and that's kind of based off of – but because it's kind of based on the LSU-Arkansas game, because that's the other team that has a chance to beat LSU if Arkansas doesn't get it done, right? You get Wegman back, and he played incredible against us. It was one of those things where you see the five-star true freshman getting his first start against Ole Miss, and you think, good Lord, here we go again, because he looked good out there. And so I assume he'll be back this week after missing last week with the flu. It really blows my mind they're underdogs at Auburn. But there's a lot of really, really funky lines this week. Not only that one, but the one up in Fayetteville. We talked about it a little bit a couple days ago, but LSU only being 3-point favorites, that should really give Ole Miss fans some excitement to tune in, because Vegas thinks that Arkansas has a real shot at winning that game. And Arkansas is one of those places that's one of the hardest places in the SEC to play. I mean, it's just one of those weird places with the high altitude. It's going to be cold this weekend. LSU coming off of that really, really big win against Alabama. So obviously I'll be tuned in there at 11 o'clock. But yeah, that A&M Auburn game kind of has me interested, because I want to see if A&M can get some momentum going. They win this game, go beat UMass, and if it comes,
then you're playing for a bowl.
Yeah, that's it. You got LSU coming into Kyle Field with bowl eligibility on the line, and potentially Ole Miss really, really needing that five-star class that Lane Kiffin has spent 2 weeks talking about, rising up to the occasion and actually living up to the name and the dollar signs that it took to get them.
People talk all the time. This time of year, they're not really true freshmen. They're not really true freshmen. Everything. It's time for Texas A&M's players to not play like true freshmen.
Yeah,
it's basically Moose Muhammad and Evan Stewart and a bunch of dudes at this point.
Yeah, it is, and that's what they are. They are a bunch of dudes, I mean, and that's what you kind of hang your hat on whenever you have to go play them. You have that in the back of your mind. You see them play all year, and you think, well, you should beat A&M regardless if it's on the road or at home or whatever. But frankly, they're a really poorly coached team.
Yeah, they really are.
It just seems like that it's really the game has passed Jimbo by at this point, and maybe he figures it out and, goes more to a CEO role and lets people call plays and all that. I'll believe it when I see it. But yeah, I mean, from a talent standpoint, it's all there, and that's kind of what gives you hope when those teams go and play Texas A&M, that maybe they can get it done for you.
Yeah, it's somebody like Emory Ballard showing up in today's football, and he knows all this stuff that can happen with the wishbone. He has everything, the splits and everything needs to be played. The 230-pound offensive lineman, and that would get absolutely destroyed today.
Yeah. My favorite quote to Emory was when Billy Brewer told him, said, Emory, I told you, God's an Ole Miss fan.
By the way, in 1984 or 85, I forget the year, in Veterans Memorial Stadium down in Jaxson, we chanted at the end of the game, Emory is a memory.
Make Emory a memory. I've heard all about it.
Yeah, those games down in Jaxson against State were pretty good.
Yeah. I've definitely heard a lot of stories about the Egg Bowls down there. I wasn't old enough to get down there and experience them myself. Yeah, I've definitely heard that they were a heck of a lot of fun. I actually went into I had some buddies live down in Starkville, and they were going into this shoe place that was also like a memorabilia type store too for a bunch of Mississippi State stuff. They had all these pictures all over the walls of all these great games in Mississippi State history. I'm just kind of sitting there looking at them. This store clerk comes up to me and he says, "Sir, can I help you with something?" I said, "Yeah, I'm looking for something very specific." And they said, "Oh, okay. Well, we probably have it. What are you looking for?" I said, I'm looking for a picture of the Immaculate Deflection." And they said, "Sir, you were in the wrong store."
I was at that game. I watched that from my dad's shoulders.
Nice.
It's one of the most amazing moments for me in Ole Miss history because it was a 27-yard field goal. Mississippi State had an all-SEC, all-American level kicker. The ball was going straight through the uprights. The Mississippi State fans stood up and was cheering, going crazy. And then as it came down, they sat down, and the Ole Miss people stood up. And absolutely nuts. I think on Twitter, I think Mike Fitzsimmons played in that game. He's on Twitter, so if you see him from time to time. But yeah, it was absolutely surreal. It's still my favorite moment of all when it comes to football.
I actually had that exact same story told to me from a buddy of mine that was at the game, and he said, it was the same thing. It was this great kicker, and as soon as it leaves his foot, you look at it going right between the uprights, and all the State fans rise up and cheer, and then you see the big wind gust blow it right back, fall short, and everybody just sits down. All the Ole Miss fans rise up. That would have been something really cool to experience.
That was a cool moment. And also, if you go on YouTube, and it's on YouTube, the person doing the Ole Miss video on that Immaculate Deflection is David Kellum before he was the voice of the Rebels. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
So, yeah, that was back when I think Stan Torgerson was doing play-by-play for Ole Miss football.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, are you going to the game this weekend?
No, I'm not. I actually did get offered a ticket today and had to think about it really hard, but I decided to stick it out with my dad. I've been watching it with him every game this season, so I'm going to go back up to his house and sit there and watch it with him. We're going to start at 11 o'clock. Woo Pig, we're going to be calling the Hogs there for, 3-4 hours leading up to the Ole Miss game, and hopefully Arkansas can pull it out for us, and then we're going to sit down and we're going to watch Ole Miss pull this thing out. I really think we're going to do it.
All right, give me a prediction before we get out of here.
Okay. 28-24 Rebels. How about that?
Hey, I came up with, I think 27-21. That was my prediction.
Okay.
So that's pretty close.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen today. For your second listen today, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. It's Locked On Sports Today. It's available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Derek, thank you very much for filling in for me today. Just this dang hurricane. I just don't want to risk not being able to do a show.
Yeah, I get it, man. Hey, it ain't no problem. I love hopping on here talking Ole Miss, and can't wait for Saturday, Woo Pig and Hotty Toddy.
All right, outstanding. Hotty Toddy.